What is it about the Kumbh that is so transformative?
Just imagine the energy at the Kumbh, where everything is in alignment. Kumbh had one more secret agenda since eternity. They're traveling astrally, or they are going to different dimensions.
And we start experiencing those things. Would it then be difficult to exist in the 3D world?
आप अपने आप को क्या साध रहे हो? आप अपनी चेतना को साध रहे हो. हम कहते हैं ना कि सनातन धर्म इंडियन भारतीय फिलॉसफी है, ये ना हम लोग भूल गए थे.
Unfortunate that a lot of attention has gone into these whole viral trends of that beautiful eyed girl and the IT babas and this and that, and but when you go there you realize that the essence is something else.
So, oh, if she's beautiful, why is she there? So, beauty isn't a restriction to be spiritual.
Exactly.
You could look anyway and be spiritual. You could be anyway and still be a sadhak.
It's not that there's a disconnect, but there's no deeper connect. But which I found there with the Naga sadhu.
When you connect with the higher consciousness, the Paramatma, a sense of right and wrong dawns on you. Whether Kumbh gives you employment or whether, Kumbh is a bakwas ki cheez. Can you imagine the capacity of Prayagraj?
I didn't want to say this on this podcast and it's just suddenly come up in my head. So do you think there was an attempt to sabotage this? Hello, my lovely people. Welcome to this very special episode of Bluntly Yours. So, a couple of weeks ago, I had the good privilege of going to the Kumbh. It was one hell of a ride, but I came back completely transformed, my soul transformed, but my mind full of questions. Now, Kumbh has been the talk of the town like no other ever. It's all over the place. Everybody's talking about it. And as it nears its end, it would be really interesting to see the impact it has left on our collective consciousness, on our culture, on the country, and the world as a whole. So, who better than Jaya Bharti, my dear friend, to answer these questions for us? Welcome, Jaya.
Hello, namaste, and I'm very delighted to be here again.
Back on the couch.
Yes.
So, Jaya, I have no words to describe the Kumbh experience. It was one chaotic trip, right? And you've been hearing about it, the traffic jams and the jammed roads and the inconveniences and whatnot. But once you enter Gangaji for the dip, everything just seems worthwhile. What is it about the Sangam, Gangaji, and that whole Mela where all these saints and everybody from around the world has come, 1/3 of India's population in that small city? What is it about the Kumbh that is so transformative?
I'm so happy, like somebody has asked this question. I've been talking about Kumbh, I don't remember how
Yeah.
many times. But yes, I'm gonna answer it from a very different perspective. I might take a little science and then obviously how science is now learning, because now science has become the new language of mysticism.
Yes.
And people understand it better when you do. So we all know that all the creation, everything that we have, we call in matter. So matter has not come out of or has not manifested on its own. There is a source field of matter. Einstein as well said that the field is the source of particle and particle is not the source of the field.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about the particles and when we talk about the matter, everything has its own inert energy. Even if it is manifest matter, it does have its own energy field. And energy in its, when we say, at the end, everything is energy. And then there are certain alignments. There are certain, this Kumbh and the impact of planetary energy on the energy of the water. Kumbh is the biggest proof of that. So that's one way where three rivers, three streams of energy are in confluence.
Yeah.
And there is an astral position of planets which is impacting that energy and heightening it up. And when a human being, when a person with, awakened consciousness, with an awakened intent, goes into that stream for elevating his or her own energy, it impacts. And anybody who takes a dip in that water knows it.
Yeah, you can actually feel it because,
Yes.
I'm a claustrophobic person. So even if I'm trapped in a lift with four people, I can't breathe.
You feel
And
the choke.
I feel suffocated, and there I was surrounded by crowds and madness and total chaos, but there was some order to it as
Yes.
well. And somehow it just felt all right. And I was like, itne sare log hain, karodo, and I'm not feeling that suffocation here for some reason.
That is the reason, because everybody is, just imagine you felt that energy, everybody around you felt that energy.
Right.
Can you just think of it, just think of it, everybody in that heightened energy state concentrated at one place.
Right.
Imagine the concentration of energy not only in the waters, not only in the stream, but even in that gathering. I don't even call it as a crowd. I don't. It's a spiritual gathering.
Yes.
So everybody who's taking a dip and coming out is coming out charged, and all those people. So now a lot of people, a lot of scientific these discoveries and experiments have been conducted, that if you make 50 or 100 or 20 people sit in a room and make them do meditation, does it impact the energy of that particular area? And it does. Just imagine the energy at the Kumbh,
Yes.
where everything is in alignment. The water streams, the planetary position, and so many auspicious occasions, whether it was Magh Purnima, whether it was Paush Purnima, whether it was Makar Sankranti, everything. And then people with spiritual intentions charged up after taking the dip, all at one place. So
Yeah.
everybody who's experiencing it knows what it is. You don't know until you experience it.
Exactly. And another significant experience that I've had meeting the sadhus, right, of all kinds. And I didn't know the difference between an akhada and an ashram. Maybe you can explain that a little bit before I go forward into talking about my experience.
So ashram is usually a place where you do the shram for your own evolution. So it could be any ashram. A lot of people do it for physical wellness. You could do it for your mental health. You could do it for yogic experiences. So now when the akhadas come into being, so akhada is a place where you wrestle.
Yeah.
So akhadas were formed because so there was a time where there was threat to Sanatan Dharma, and a lot of invaders were coming in, and it was one time when Buddhism was at its peak, and even a lot of kings and rulers who had the responsibility of defending India from the invaders were taking becoming ascetics and leaving the kingdom. So akhadas came into being for two reasons. One, it also created a provision where kings could live a life of ascetic yet rule and fight for defending the land. That was their primary duty. Also, the sadhus, especially the nagas, they were training in those akhadas in warfare, and while they fought for the practiced and did their wrestling for the for the warfare and the these marital arts and martial arts and all, they also had to practice the shastras. So shastra and shastra, and shastrarth is one way of one kind of wrestling. It is
Right,
the intellectual spiritual, it's wrestling that you have to prove how much you understand the philosophy. And it's not only the philosophy that you've studied. I would add one more thing here, that when you see akhadas had Kumbh had one more secret agenda since eternity, ever since Kumbh came into happening.
Really?
Yes. So what happens is that now Sanatan Dharma and our way of life is rooted in consciousness. Consciousness is ever evolving. So something which is ever evolving, and so the people who are practicing higher consciousness, the secrets of existence, the secrets of life, the higher secrets of different dimensions, they get revealed to them. So somebody who's practicing consciousness, somebody who's doing dhyan and samadhisht for 12 years or more than that, and when you come back, when you know that you're meeting,
Yeah.
so those experiences which are not yet recorded in the books, which are not in the shastras, but people are still experiencing and evolving, they are shared there.
What are those experiences?
So supposedly, if I talk about, it's yogic people, in when they are in those, they're traveling astrally or they are going to different dimensions. There are multiverses, there are multiple dimensions. So we believe that we are living in a linear dimension here. So where there is time, there is linear dimension. A lot of dimensions are there where there is no time. There is no time dimension. So everything is present like one big moment.
Yeah.
And when you travel in that space, when you travel, you go beyond time. You could go to any dimension. Different people go to different dimensions. There are different beings there. There are different experiences there. There are different level of life. Somebody just spoke about Kumbh ki Swarg Nark kahan hota hai.
Ah.
So Swarg is a higher dimension and Nark is a lower dimension.
Right.
And there are dimensions beyond that. And this whole journey of life in human being coming into this body. So our soul keeps traveling from body to dimension to dimension.
Right.
So people, either you leave one dimension and go to the other after dying, or by yogic practices, by whole your dhyan, you acquire that power of leaving your body temporarily and your consciousness traveling. So when your consciousness travels and you have an experience of a different dimension, you come back and you tell to the other person, okay, which dimension did you travel? This is what I learned about the core principle of life. This is the truth about existence. This is the truth about death. This is the truth about different dimension. This is about awareness and consciousness. That's what they keep talking. That's why you have the 4 Vedas and Puranas, and because a lot of faith, they have just one book and they keep going around, and we have like commentaries, and then we have Veds, and then we have Purans, and then we have Smritis and Shrutis and everything, because the evolution of knowledge is infinite.
Right. And for anyone who has experienced these dimensions, which are these yogis and these sadhus, would it, and suppose they have voluntarily given up the material life, for example, somebody like you and me, we do a yogic practice and we start experiencing those things, would it then be difficult to exist in the 3D world the way we know it?
No. When you acquire one power, you don't lose the other power.
Yeah.
So you still know how to exist in this 3D world, and you still know you have acquired another knowledge, another aspect of knowledge, and you've learned a vidya that we call that too. If you want to transcend from this dimension, experience other dimensions. I know many people.
Yeah.
They do just
I know
say,
you do.
yeah. So, and I keep learning from them. So, like it might take you like there's one, like we do for 7 to 8 hours sitting in dhyan in a day. And like you talk, okay, where did you go yesterday? It was that experience. I met those, there's a different creation of life form altogether. The people look different and we have spoken to them. And okay, they're coming back and then they say, okay, where I went, it was different.
Are those people, are they entities or are they energies? What are they when you see? I think we're digressing, but just for a little bit.
No. But those people and these energies, see, you yourself is energy. You are consciousness. You are soul. So your soul possesses a body. It's not that your body possesses a soul. So you are a soul and you also possess a body.
Right.
And but your consciousness is completely in the material and the 3D world. So by practice, when you learn that I have the power of transgressing the 3D, going to other dimension and coming back, so you make your body still. Okay, sit down here. I'm leaving you for some time. I'm going back for 3 hours for some time. Here it might be 3 hours for you. For me, it's just going and coming back.
But who will I meet there?
That's the discovery. That's the discovery. The life form is not only here on earth.
Can you do that without a guru? Without a guru training you?
No, that's not possible. So first, it's mastering your awareness. It's like mastering your consciousness. Then when you master your consciousness, then it is directing your consciousness. Then when you direct your consciousness and when you keep directing it and then you keep evolving it, that's where, at point in time, it transcends the 3D and it goes into the infinity. and infinity has multiverses,
I have been
multi-dimension.
trying, trust me, I've been trying for a long time.
Yeah, and you know, you if you have a method, just
Yeah.
keep practice. We have to be consistent on it.
Right.
And the Kumbh has been a place where people with these experiences come and share it. This is the reason why, you know, you should meet sadhus there.
I met many and I closely connected with one. And you know, the thing that people say ki sadhus ka ashirwad le lo, it's not just an ashirwad as some person saying, oh, jeete raho beta. It's, I could actually feel that transfer of energy when I.
That's called a Shaktipat.
Yes.
Yes, in our language, it's actually when somebody is connected to the source of energy, and somebody who has harnessed that higher conscious energy within yourself. That's the whole purpose of sadhana. Why do you, आप अपने आप को क्या साध रहे हो? आप अपनी चेतना को साध रहे हो, आप अपनी ऊर्जा को साध रहे हो, आप उसे फोकस और कॉन्सेंट्रेट कर रहे हो, और जब आपको जहाँ उसका सही पात्र मिलता है, आप थोड़ी सी एनर्जी ट्रांसफर करके एक्टिवेट कर देते हो.
And उसके बाद से I've been very like more spiritually inclined than I ever was in terms of my meditations and prayers.
This
and
is one of the
everything.
major takeaways of
Yeah,
Kumbh,
yeah.
that
I mean, I never thought myself that I'll end up being like that, but all for the better. I'm enjoying the experience.
yes. और हमारी जितनी भी सभ्यता, हमारी जो हम कहते हैं ना कि सनातन धर्म और जो इंडियन भारतीय फिलॉसफी है, ये ना हम लोग भूल गए थे बहुत. हम ना इसको डिस्कस करने के ना हमें पॉइंट्स भी, कंटेक्स्ट भी नहीं मिलते थे. Today the context of this dialogue is everywhere, and this is what this Kumbh has given. I remember I get mails, I get messages, I get questions from so many young people who send me that this was our experience of Kumbh. What do we mean by this? Can you enlighten
People
us?
are curious because I mean, so many Kumbhs have gone. Like in my lifetime, at least 3-4 of them. But it has never been talked about the way it's being talked about now. It's taken over social media everywhere.
The
But
world over, the world is
over.
talking.
And I also feel that it's a little unfortunate that a lot of attention has gone into these whole viral trends of, that beautiful eyed girl and the IT babas and this and that. And, but when you go there, you realize that the essence is something else altogether.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, you said the word. The essence is somewhere else. When we go, we all have an orientation. We all are
Right.
conditioned to look and think in a certain way. So when we go there, if she's beautiful, why is she there? So, beauty isn't a restriction to be spiritual.
Exactly.
You could look anyway and be spiritual. You could be anyway and still be a sadhak. So, when we go there and we start looking at the external factors and start comparing those external factors with what does it do to be at Kumbh, and why are you at Kumbh, and why does it doesn't connect with spirituality? Oh, come on, sadness, defeat, heartbreak.
Glamour can also be spiritual.
These are not the reasons why somebody becomes spiritual.
Exactly.
So anybody can, and I always talk about this, that every soul is as his or her own journey.
Right.
What inspires you today, at what point you get spiritual, and from where you start depends on where you left it in the past life. So we just leave the body and we keep transcending to level of awareness and devotion and spiritual experience, or towards mysticism. So it depends. So a lot of people, even if we are going to Kumbh, and we are only looking if somebody is beautiful, or somebody is from IIT, or if somebody is lying on the
or some
ponds,
exhibitionism,
or somebody is has raised his hand for 12 years, and why is he doing it? These are mundane questions.
I swear they are.
So you have to rise above the mundane factors and dive deeper to take the benefit of something like this, because it is not going to happen again very soon. This opportunity is, I would think, is one of a kind.
Yeah.
And it has inspired, I believe this Kumbh has inspired the young inquisitiveness, the way young people, the way youth has been, enchanted by Kumbh, and the way they have been introduced and kind of, they've been made aware about their own culture. Like never before. The way they are taking pride in their philosophy, in their own culture, in their own traditions, in the fact of the spiritual facts of Kumbh. It was very, very happy experience for me.
Right. I have one very personal question to ask. So it's been a while since I've been, exploring spirituality and mysticism, like you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, of course, met many people along the way. So I've been to mandirs, ashrams, spoken to sadhus, priests, and somehow never found that connect in your regular mainstream, as you would call it. Uh, it's not that there is a disconnect, but there is no deeper connect. But which I found there with the Naga sadhus that I met.
So there's a
So,
difference between
hmm,
information and experience.
yeah.
When you meet people here, the people who generally share their own insights
Hmm.
on religious or spiritual matters.
Hmm.
So, there is, हम कहते हैं कि उन्होंने शास्त्रों को पढ़ा है.
Hmm.
और ये जो नागा साधु हैं, जो अखाड़ों में हैं,
Hmm.
दे आर द वंस जिन्होंने उस जो शास्त्रों में लिखा है ना, उसको अनुभव किया है.
Hmm.
सो यू गॉट एन एक्सपीरियंस इन कुंभ,
Hmm. Yeah.
एंड हियर वी गेट इन्फॉर्मेशन.
I
सो
think
दिस इज
that's what made the
डिफरेंस बिटवीन,
difference.
एक होता है ज्ञान होना, एक होता है अनुभव होना.
हाँ.
तो जो अनुभूति है ना, जो स्पिरिचुअलिटी इज ऑल अबाउट these
Do it
mystical
yourself.
eternal experiences.
Yeah.
You have to start your journey. Just start it.
It just made me wonder whether there are different paths of spirituality, and maybe one path is different from another, and maybe that one is more aligned with me than is that real, or is it all
No, it to some extent it is real, because different, see, what's more important in the path of spirituality is your intent. वो कहते हैं ना कि दिस वेरी फेमस, अभी तो बहुत ट्रेंड भी किया था ये दोहा कि जिसकी रही भावना जैसी हरि मूरत देखी तिन तैसी.
हाँ.
कि जिसकी जैसी जैसी भावना होती है ना, उन्होंने वैसे वैसे एक्सपीरियंस की है. ईश्वर को देखना यानी ईश्वर के भाव. तो आप किस इंटेंट से, लॉट ऑफ पीपल व्हेन दे आर स्ट्रेस्ड, व्हेन दे आर इन डिफिकल्टी, एंड व्हेन दे आर दे आर एंग्शियस और दे हैव इमोशनल और मेंटल इश्यूज, सो to stabilize their mind and to be calmer, then that's the way they approach meditation. For them, meditation is only that, you're into psychology, you know how the brain wavelengths, they affect us.
Yeah.
So for them it is just calming down their brain
Yeah.
wavelengths and feeling better, or getting better at feeling, the way you say it.
You remember very easy.
Yeah, I do. So, but for others who have had an enriching journey previously also, for them, getting to understand what is the deeper meaning of life, what is the purpose of our existence. So I will bring in here the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that we usually so in dharma, artha, kama, moksha is the 4 purusharth that our philosophy, our Sanatan darshan teaches us. We call it darshan. See, so people call it philosophy, but Sanatan calls it darshan. The darshan means to have the direct perception of. So for the first purusharth is dharma. So dharma is that, something dawns on you when you connect with the higher intelligence, when you connect with the higher consciousness, the Paramatma, a sense of right and wrong dawns on you. You become mindful of what are the right methods, right means, what is right to do in your own capacity. So dharma is not religion here. Dharma is the awareness and awakening of knowing what is to be done, what is not to be done, how and when and where. That's dharma.
Right.
So, and then next comes earth. So earth is acquiring the riches and resources to lead a good life. So these 4 purusharthas are for leading a good life. So first is knowing what to do and what not to do, being aware, being mindful, and knowing the right ways of doing anything. And then you know the earth. So acquiring the wealth through the right means. And then comes the calm. So if you've acquired earth, if you've acquired resources, you enjoy them. That's calm. You enjoy, if you earn money, you enjoy the riches, but in a sustainable way, taking care of others. And once you've done 3 of them, it comes moksha. that don't get entangled into this. You have had the opportunity, you've enjoyed it, you've earned it, you have very duly enjoyed it the way you were worthy of it enough to gain it and then enjoy it. But now it's time to look beyond it, because here is the opportunity for you to liberate yourself and go to a higher dimension, because we are in a linear dimension on earth, and we can get back into the same loop of coming over and over here again. Once you've got an experience, it's better you evolve further. So that's one way of spirituality for few people. For them, they know that I need to understand what is the true meaning of life. Why am I here? Even if I've achieved success in the material and physical terms, even still there is a deeper meaning to life. So few people approach astha or approach adhyatma or spirituality, as we say it, for this purpose. It depends on what your intent is. So even if our philosophy, our own darshan gives us the liberty to enjoy everything, it still gives that from dharma it starts and it goes to moksha. And if you're not reaching the moksha, you wasted an opportunity.
So while a majority of people who've gone to Kumbh have found it very transformative, me being one of them, there's also a very small section of people who've been calling it Andhvishwas and bekar ki cheez hai.
Bakwas hai.
Bakwas hai. What do you have to say to them?
I feel, I really, we were intending not to make it a little political. So anyway,
no, not making it political. It's just some people just don't have that faith, right?
No. So I'll tell you, I have not heard that it is bekar from any of the normal people.
Yeah.
The regular people who live with us and you and me in the society. I've never heard that from anyone. I've interacted with a lot of people. Ever since the Kumbh has started, I've been into the Kumbh zone. There are people who are politically oriented, and so a lot of people who what Kumbh has given one thing is a very strong Hindu consolidation.
Yeah.
So you see Kumbh, a lot of people have been 50 crore people, almost 1/3 of Bharat's population, India's population. No spitting in the food.
Yeah.
There is no caste divides, like it has been told. It was drilled inside the Indian civilization that the Sanatan Dharma is rooted in caste divides. There was no caste divide, nothing. Everybody is taking the dip in the same stream.
Same water.
And look at the institutions, look at so many organizations. They were, apart from the government, I look at the spiritual dharmic organization taking care of for food, rest, and conveniences of the people there. So it has united this Hindu consciousness in a way like never before. It has, we were united. It has actually exemplified it and brought it to the forefront. Now something that you were drilling for a very long period, now Kumbh has established that it was a lie. So you have to fabricate another lie. You need to have an agenda. I feel that people who are objective to Kumbh, who are sometimes comparing it with whether Kumbh gives you roti or whether Kumbh gives you employment or whether Kumbh is a bakwas ki cheez, when they say this is actually, I don't think that they are talking about Kumbh. They are using Kumbh to drive their agenda. That's what, as a normal citizen of India, I look upon it. Because if you could find such a mammothical event, few things can definitely, one thing that I spoke about Kumbh was that the administration cannot discipline people.
I was thinking about this today because a lot of people who went there were like Prabandh nahi tha. I was like, it's a small tier 2 city end of the day, right? Even if you prepare for years, it cannot be ever prepared enough for a crowd of that magnitude.
Can you imagine the capacity of Prayagraj otherwise?
Exactly. And also, after a point, there is only so much that administration or any government can do. It's also up to the people to follow, basic civic sense,
protocol,
basic cleanliness,
and discipline.
Exactly. If भीड़ हो रही है, अगर थोड़ा सा disturbance हो रहा है, your job is to calm people around you rather than
one thing. If there is some sort of rush of such a big number of people, you see, have you ever seen their police was not carrying a baton. In the entire Kumbh, the only way the police had to do was request. Want batons on
I
people.
didn't want to say this on this podcast, and it's just suddenly come up in my head. So when we were going around with the guide,
Mhm.
he was a local, of course, and he was, one of our team members from the
Hmm.
agency. So an insider's view.
Hmm.
And this wasn't in the news as well. I don't know how true or false it is, but those 4 5 boys who were taking us around told us this, that when the stampede happened,
Hmm.
there were certain people, don't know who they were trying to aggravate it. People were being deliberately pushed so that there's more chaos, and then there were also incidents of someone throwing fireworks into the akhadas where they were. So do you think there was an attempt to sabotage this?
Yeah, I do feel that because suddenly, when in the mid of the night, when people are sleeping and you rake it up, and one thing that I feel, there's also a gut feeling, something
Yeah.
going so well, and it's appreciated
Hmm.
all over, and then you have political opponents which they just can't digest it. So I feel that the success of Kumbh was not easily digested by many,
Hmm.
and a lot of people were rattled by the kind of consolidation of this consciousness that was happening in Kumbh. And I feel it was not only, there was news all over that there could be a conspiracy of raking
Yeah.
this up, and
That's what the locals feel. That's what the
that's what
locals
even a lot
say.
of people feel, and I think there's an investigation already going on it,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's something going to come
Hmm.
out about it. But yes, I do feel that when you see such an, I can't, there's not even a word to encompass the vastness and the
Unimaginable scale.
scale. Prayagraj is a small city which has the capacity of 16 lakh people.
Yeah.
Imagine 1 crore people coming and going out of that city every
It's
day.
bursting at the seams.
Where you cannot create more land.
Yeah.
After all, you have to like press in, and you can't tell people, no, I'm sorry, you cannot get in, though we
Hmm.
were requesting. So yes, there were challenges. I would say with such a huge number coming in, there would be challenges,
Hmm.
no denying of that. But still, I think it has culminated and emerged in a best way it can.
Yeah, but our country has managed to pull it off.
Country,
Yeah,
and
as beautifully as it could have.
yes, I feel the impact and the awareness and the consciousness that
Hmm.
this Kumbh has brought is absolutely epic and instrumental.
So you're telling me something about the conversations you've been having with your friends all over the world from the spiritual community. What has that been like?
It's not about conversation. I think every friend I've known has come to Kumbh, and the way they've asked us to help us, to navigate where to come, how to go, where to stay.
Hmm.
So remember, like one of the friends, when they returned from Kumbh, and then and she met me, she was all tears.
Yeah.
She said, like, I have never experienced anything like this ever in my life. You see, like, people, the king of Bhutan was here, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, a temple was opening up in Jakarta. I feel the Kumbh was such an auspicious time. And India had become, the whole country, and especially Uttar Pradesh, had become a big pilgrimage.
Yes.
It has brought India uh, as a, on the limelight on the world stage as the cultural capital of India.
Hmm.
Just see, if you go to Kumbh, then they are going to Kashi Vishwanath, they are going to Ram Mandir,
Yes.
and then they come out of Uttar Pradesh. The people who are coming from abroad, they are going to Mahakal, they are going to Rameshwaram, then they are going to the Padmanabh Swami temple. And I have become almost an expert in developing those itineraries now, because of you. So India has become the cultural capital of the world.
Hmm.
And for anything which is spiritual, which is more related to this conscious knowledge, and I think India has emerged a champion in it.
Yeah.
And I feel so happy, and it has been, a lot of proud moments have been in this
It
one
did.
month journey.
So much of it just makes you so proud of what we've managed to pull off and how it's put India on the global map, and the general curiosity and inquisitiveness about our culture, about Sanatan in general.
The way people look at us, I feel, when they were coming from overseas and going to Kumbh and going to other places, other temples, and then coming back, they were looking at us like how fortunate and how
Yeah.
blessed and how rewarded we people are that we have access to these locations, we have access to these centers of faith.
Hmm.
And there a lot of people promise we want to come again. Can we go to the Sangam when the Kumbh is over, or is it like restricted? I said, no, it's not restricted.
Yes, so
They
tell
say,
me this also. So if I go to Sangam, say
Yeah.
6 months from now,
Yeah.
is it going to feel any different?
The astral energy could be a little less, but the energy of the rivers, and especially if you are taking a dip during the Purnimas, then definitely there's a spike in energy because there's a high concentration in the river bodies due to the gravitational pull of the moon, and that's why the Purnima snans are usually considered sacred and auspicious, because anything in our civilization, our faith, is sacred and auspicious the way if it impacts your evolution as a soul, as a consciousness, as an awareness. So these are auspicious dates. And yes, Sangam is open all the time, and so many people have promised to come beyond Kumbh to
Yeah.
experience and look at how it looks when there are less people.
Less people around.
How to experience that?
Why is the water sweet? Like whenever I have taken a dip in Ganga Ji, in
Hmm.
Rishikesh, in Banaras,
Hmm.
and now at Sangam,
Hmm.
अब dip लेते हैं तो मुंह में थोड़ा पानी तो जाता है ना. It's always sweet. Why is it sweet?
Because it's not only the Ganga water, na? It's the Jamuna is there, the Saraswati is there, so the mineral properties of three are different, and when they come together, that's
I think
what they
some
that's the-
concoction.
that's the and it's only not because these are sacred rivers, they do have their own energies. You
Right.
cannot deny that they're not charged with energies. You have for it's not for that, for no reason you call them as Ma.
Yeah.
You do call
Does
them
it
Ma.
make sense to bring water back from there? Because a lot of people did carry
they do.
back cans
It
of
does.
water.
It does. It
What
does.
all can one do with that water?
Very systematic practice in all Indian households since ancient times, that when you go to these sacred river spots, you go and you bring back the water. So one thing that's very important is the kind of feeling and devotion you have toward it. That's what I call as intent. So on auspicious dates, so if you're not able to go to Haridwar or Rishikesh or Shipra or Ujjain or the Kumbh, you add that water to your water that you're bathing in at your home, and you usually there's a lot of shloks that by intention alone you connect with these sacred water sources. So there's a shlok that Gange
Does it hold energy for like that long?
Science is proving water has memory.
Yeah.
You're doing all that moon bathing and moon water drinking and all that thing. So now the world is discovering it, like moon bathing and moon water. And they say that water has a memory. If you're taking the water from the Ganges with an intent, and then you say, you do the pranam to Ma Ganga and to, the Sangam Jal, and then you say that I'm taking your blessings along with me and I want these to reside in my home. That's the energy and the vibe and the memory that water is going to carry. And the moment you take bath in it and you say Gange cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalasmin Sannidhim Kuru, so it's going to give you prosperity. That's what. So intent
मेरे को लिख के दे देना ये.
हाँ, definitely. So the intent by which there is energy, and the intent with which you use that energy is how it impacts your life. The experience
That's
is
beautiful, no? So with that scale of people coming in into Prayagraj, and of course, like you said, many of the travelers, pilgrims would also go to other places. It clearly would have an impact on the economy and the tourism industry.
Yeah,
Do you have insights on that?
insights in भारत में धर्म और अर्थ हमेशा से साथ साथ चले हैं. हम लोग कहते हैं कि we spiritual people in India, the spirituality teaches you to be like Maya hai and leave the money. No, it's about how you approach it. So if you're approaching your life that you want to go beyond it, your choice. If you want to go with it, it gives you the provision for that as well. That's what Sanatan's beauty is.
Yeah.
And I see that the resurgence of all the Hindu centers of faith, whether it's Ram Mandir, Kumbh has already given the revenue of 2 lakh crores to Uttar Pradesh.
Wow.
So if just imagine there are 50 crore people we've already sent, they said they visited Kumbh already. There's 1 week more to go. Just calculate if everybody is spending only 100 rupees there. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Look at, the business that the local vendors are getting, the local artisans are getting, the rickshaw pullers, the everyone, the food stalls, the tea stalls, everyone. Look at the employment and the revenue generated for them,
Of course.
right? So, even the people who are selling malas, people who are selling flowers, everybody is earning out of it. And the employment, only the way it has been created for maintenance of the Kumbh city, it's the small, small city. Prayagraj has been given as a temporary city status. So a lot of people have been employed there. We have
For
been
logistics and administration,
we have
security,
been
everything.
we have been made to look towards our own heritage, towards our own temples and our own centers of faith from the comparison point of view, whether we've heard आस्था नहीं चाहिए हमें, आस्था से ज़्यादा तो हमें रोज़गार और रोटी चाहिए, we need bread, then we need the Ganga, or we need dharm. But we forget, I think we are defying logic here. Kashi Vishwanath has impacted the economy of Kashi by 65%. It has already increased by 65%. In Ayodhya alone, when Ram Mandir was getting built, even before the Pran Pratishtha Yagya, more than 20,000 more employment were created. Kumbh has already impacted by 2 lakh crores.
मेरे को तो जीरो भी नहीं इतने गिनने आते.
तो अगर हम इतना बड़ा इम्पैक्ट कर रहे हैं, तो हमारे जो मंदिर हैं, हमारे जो आस्था के केंद्र हैं, दे ऑलरेडी वो अर्थ को बढ़ाते ही बढ़ाते हैं. धर्म के साथ अर्थ बढ़ता ही बढ़ता है. तो आज से ना दिस होल नैरेटिव कि हमें मंदिर नहीं चाहिए, आस्था नहीं चाहिए, रोजगार चाहिए और इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट चाहिए, तो हम कहेंगे ज़्यादा मंदिर बनाओ, ज़्यादा इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट होगा. दिस इज बीन प्रूव्ड. आई एम नॉट मेकिंग इट अप. इट्स देयर, द फैक्ट्स. Almost more than 24 international repute have come and did the study on Kumbh. The Harvard is there, London School of Economics is there, Kyoto University is there, Stanford is there, your own IIMs, your own IITs are studying. They're studying how is it possible to manage, organize and implement order in such a huge event. How do you manage logistics? How do people come? How do you see the human behavior? People are looking at anthropology and everything over there, and they are studying the economic impact. It actually, it gives a huge push to the economic growth already. Do you think that when the Kumbh concludes, the international tourist to the religious places or the religious tourism will go up or go down?
Will go up for sure.
So then if the religious tourism in India is going up, wellness tourism in India is going up, imagine how is it impacting the economy?
Yeah.
So I call it's a Hindunomics in play.
In play, exactly.
Yes.
Hindunomics in play.
Yeah.
One very important question. कुंभ जाने से पाप धुलते हैं क्या?
हाँ, कुंभ से नहीं, हर जो भी हमारी ये आध्यात्मिक तीर्थ स्थल हैं, इनको क्यों बोलते हैं कि इनमें पाप धुलते हैं? पहली चीज, व्हाट इज पाप? यू आर अ साइकोलॉजिस्ट एंड यू नो हाउ इट वर्क्स. तो एवरी एक्शन दैट वी डू, हमारे यहाँ पर कहते हैं कि हम 3 प्रकार से कर्मों को संचित करते हैं. मनसा, वाचा, कर्मणा. जो हम मन से सोचते हैं, जो हम बोलते हैं और जो हम करते हैं, उनका इम्प्रिंट हमारे सबकॉन्शियस माइंड पे होता है. हमारे माइंड पर भी होता है और हमारे वही माइंड, और हम जब छोड़ते हैं ना ये शरीर, तो सिर्फ स्थूल मटेरियल बॉडी छूटती है, एस्ट्रल बॉडी, कॉन्शियसनेस, माइंड साथ जाता है. तो दिस इज हाउ वी कैरी द इम्प्रिंट्स ऑफ आवर कर्मा, द फिजिकल कर्मा. द everybody is teaching us how to think nowadays. So what we think, what we do, what we speak becomes my karma. It could be a good karma, it could be a bad karma. The imprint of the bad karma is sin. And every imprint, as we know, even when we talk about the brain wiring, we know that every imprint actually keeps expanding its neurons in the brain. Your paap actually, your sin or your imprint actually stays there in your brain as a neurotic pathway, as a neurotic circuit. and it becomes a part of your personality. So when you go to these sacred places where either you're going to a pilgrimage site, what do you find there? You find a positive environment. You come into the company of saints and sages who talk things that purify your, which changes the conditioning of your mind.
Right.
You start thinking about different things. So they talk about higher values, they talk about better ways of living, they talk about being more selfless. They, any, you just imagine what does a saint tells you. They tell you to lead a good life,
Yeah.
an ethical, valuable life. So when you go to these sacred spaces, there is, and the time you stay there, it is also called as a kalpavas. So 1 month of Kumbh is also a kalpavas. When you stay there, you practice spirituality and you do dhyan. So when you do dhyan, when you come in the company of the people who are beyond karma, your own mind is impacted. There is a reflection that begins to happen in yourself. And in that reflection, you figure out that you have done certain things wrong, knowingly or unknowingly. And then there is an intent that emerges in you which says, I want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And the moment you start intending with it, now people are using meditation to cleanse their thought process, to rewire their brain. Now you're talking it. Our saints were doing it since
Yes,
eternity.
ages,
So that
yeah.
when you come into the company, come into that environment, you start reflecting intentionally, you start purifying. And the moment you break the previous neurotic pathway and circuit of certain past actions and thoughts and karmas, that's what Paap Dhulna is.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you take a dip, so when people teach you to do this meditation of rewiring your brain, what does it happen? They tell you to raise your energy to your brain, become more aware of your brain, become more aware of that, you're taking the life force to your brain. They teach you, they do that instructive meditation. And when you take a dip, so that charge water already does, okay,
Does that for you.
it goes right to your head.
You can feel it.
You can,
It's tangible.
somebody
Yeah.
who's been there knows it. So when you experience that rush of energy, it opens up your whole, your brain, your
Chakras.
central nervous system. There's a lot of mental clarity that
Clarity
comes in.
yes.
And
And
some
calmness also.
clarity and calmness, and you can reflect better as to what kind of human being now you want to be.
Right.
And that's how your subconscious mind get cleanses. No, you said like you just, I think, spent few hours there.
Yeah.
And you say that now you feel it differently. You've been a different person, you experience it differently. So
Yes.
you're finding a change in yourself.
Right.
What else is it that
And
you
imagine all those crores of people must also be finding that change in themselves.
Yes, everybody
So the collective consciousness is
yes,
on a rise.
every person finds it as to their corresponding to their own level.
Yeah. And like so many people who have not been able to go to Kumbh, and by the time this episode comes out, it'll probably be over. What can they do to sort of get the benefits or the energy or the blessings of Kumbh?
In our Adhyatm, in Sanatan Dharma, one thing has been kept at the highest pedestal beyond any experience. It is the constant practice of intention. So they say energy follows awareness. Wherever your awareness is, your energy will go there. And wherever there is energy going, it is going to cause permanent change over there, exactly equal to the intention you are doing that awareness practice with. So we call it dhyan. So if you take 10 minutes, if probably you've not been able to go to Kumbh, but you want to have that spiritual evolution, give some time to yourself, your consciousness daily. Sit with the right intention. Connect, think, so the first way of directing your awareness is to think in a certain direction. So you first think. I just swayed my awareness while I'm talking. I brought it back. So, the way when you intend your thought in the direction of the higher consciousness or the Paramatma, and you connect, when you think, the way your thought is going, you're connecting. So when you connect, you tell that I'm sitting here with all my being to be more connected with you, as equally as somebody went to Kumbh and did. I seek guidance to evolve my awareness and connect with you. And with that thought, sit in silence. Feel your awareness going towards that direction. And the more you are aware of that, you are going in that direction, your energy is going to follow that direction, and gradually you will evolve into that experience.
Wow, that sounds doable.
That's the yeah, and that's the power of intention. The whole reason behind any dhyan, the people who meditate, the people who do dhyan, first they do is they become aware as to why they are doing. You need to have a clear intention, and if you're doing, if you're guiding your awareness with a clear intention, it is bound to bring that impact in your life. That is a law.
You heard her. So if you have not been able to go to the Kumbh, do follow what Jaya has just told us. And if you have, do tell me about your experiences in the comments below. I would love to hear from you on this. It's one of my favorite episodes till date. Goodbye.